This is where the radio comes in handy, folks. Yes, that curve y'all need to look after because everybody comes around that curve going too fast and it's at a dead stop. Westbound. You see that? And people who just cut right in front of you. Oh, you're driving an Audi. Hey, when's that car got to be back, dude? That is a very expensive automobile there in front of me. BMW, Mercedes. A lot of posh people living here in Omaha, Nebraska. All I know is the mass majority of American people can't afford that vehicle unless it's a rental. But then again, they just don't rent those cars out to just anybody. Ugh. I can't remember. We're coming up on this accident. What exit number was it? Thank you, driver. That's just right in front of me. This is about the only time that the CB chatter comes alive whenever there's an accident, trying to warn everybody to back it up, especially back there a couple miles behind me. That's a sharp curve, and people are going really fast, and it's like a dead stop around that curve. And you can, especially in a truck like mine, you can lose control very easily. That's why it surprised me there wasn't no accident on that curve back there. Plus, your view around that curve is obstructed. Yeah, I get on. Wonderful. Everybody in the right hand lane is going to try to get back over. Yeah, good luck getting over now because there's a lot of traffic coming. Yeah, but see, everybody's going around at a high rate of speed and expect to be let in at the end. Yeah, the ones on the right side were rubbernecking and ass ended each other. But it's like sex. It's like, you know, stop, go, because all these people on the left, the impatient ones, are going all the way to the end and expect to be let in. It causes us to stop. When 2 miles back was a sign that said, the two right lanes are the ones you will need to be in, not the left. Yeah, going up that hill, we're going to go down a hill a little bit and then come up. It looks like when you go up, that's when it opens up. Yeah, because I see the tow truck in the middle of the highway. Now that is a classy vehicle. You don't see too many of. That Lincoln Town Car there, it's a pimp mobile. I was talking on the CB. Sorry, folks. But it is. The Lincoln Town Car was probably the last vehicle made that had any kind of class at all. But mostly your pimps drove those. I believe that's an 85 or 86 Lincoln Town Car. But back in the day, the pimps used to drive those. Pimping ain't easy, man. That's what the Godfather said in WWE years ago. Time to ride the hoe train. That guy had a lot of character, man, but he was forced into that one. Welcome everybody that's in the chat. I really cannot read it. You know, Sammy could come up here and be my co-host. She could read it all for me. This is the kind of shit that makes you delayed, and I'm ahead of schedule, but I like to stay ahead of schedule. Come on, man. Prime, you should know better. You should not be in the hammer lane. As slow as you freaking drive. Sammy, if you can and you're still in here, come up here and be my co-host so you can read the chat for me. I appreciate it. This is just to let y'all having it. Yeah, oversized. If you don't get over now, you may not get over at all. Now there's an antique. Got artillery cannons for pipes. Yeah, I'm hoping that radios start making a comeback for safety reasons. Because some drivers without one that came around that curve, you know, it's not easy to stop. I admit I gave mine to my nephew about 4 years ago, and I just finally got a new one. See, the reason why I didn't have a CB radio is because basically you get tired of the bullshit, but I think it's about ended. People are starting to be civil on the radio instead of just talking shit on it. Yeah, when the FCC deregulated it, that's when everybody, the language, and people didn't care. But if the FCC were to re-regulate again, oh yeah, them dog has some teeth. Because back in the day, you got found out. They, they were famous for seizing. They were famous for seizing your equipment, fining you, and not, if not jail time also. That's why everybody had fake names. Like one of the most popular was a camel toe holder. That was hilarious when I heard that name. Hey, Coca-Cola, if you got a radio, I'm going to let you over, all right? If I leave a gap, these cars are going to get in there. If you had some Diet Dr. Pepper, I'd let them in long ago. Yeah, it looks like it's opening up, though, all the lanes. Well, I mostly drink water, but when I decide to drink some hard stuff, it's Diet Dr. Pepper. You need to get over? Go ahead. Yeah, you got it. See, that's nice there. Them guys don't have a radio, but they're trying to get over. A bull hauler. It doesn't look like an accident. It looks like they pulled people over for speeding. Ugh. It's most of these four-wheelers doing it. One, two, three. Yep, there it happened to my right here. Smack and then skid marks. Wow. Blew out that back window. Ooh. That little Ford Focus just got ass-ended really good, too. Y'all have a safe day, and hopefully this doesn't happen again, because I got to get to Salt Lake. Yeah, I kind of figured I'd hurry up and do a live stream. Hey, car, pay attention. Do you want to be crushed? Big fat ass dude in there, too. I'm surprised he got behind the wheel of that car. Y'all didn't get to enjoy my radio a little bit. Hear the radio chatter, how we talk. It's getting to be more civil now instead of a bunch of foul mouthed people just talking trash. But basically, the radio chatter dies once you get past that point. I mean, I'll still pick them up being 50 miles away if they're still talking back there. But the majority of drivers today, they don't have a CB in their truck. Some of them got CBs, but they're broke or they don't work because some drivers just won't spend the coin on a good radio like mine. My radio I bought from Larry, which is a former United States Marine radio man. Now, your radio men that were in the military, those are the best people to buy a CB from. CB and an antenna, they're going to make sure you get some distance. Because the last radio I had that I gave to my nephew, I was out in San Diego, and I ended up reaching people from Australia. And Larry explained to me, yeah, that can happen. If it's a clear night from here to there, you're going to get atmospheric bounce. I was talking to them for about 5 minutes, and then I lost signal. But this radio here, I can reach out on average about 50 miles. And when I talk, people can hear me for about 50 miles. I discovered that on the second day of using the radio. I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I was talking to somebody from Charlotte. But this is Interstate 80, west of Omaha, Nebraska. I'm going to spend probably the rest of my drive shift in Nebraska. With any luck, I'll make it close to the Wyoming border, which would be great. Probably Sydney. The Love's there in Sydney. And I'll get in with one drive shift of hitting Salt Lake. I got to deliver these chickens early morning on the 8th, day after tomorrow. And hopefully the conditions in Wyoming are favorable. The only thing that would stop me in Wyoming would be an accident or the wind. The wind could be really bad there. That's because when you look at weathermen or whatever, shit, idiot. When you look at the news on the weather, usually the jet stream it stays over Wyoming, and that's why it's a very windy state. And it explains why they don't have any professional sports teams because, like during a football game, you could kick an 80-mile field goal. You kick that ball high enough, that jet stream's going to take it and carry that ball a long ways away. That's why there ain't a whole lot of people that live in Wyoming. It's like they copy and pasted Colorado and nobody showed up. Cost of living is pretty cheap there, though. So it caused some people from California to move there. Yeah, there was a lot of people from California that moved. Now, a lot of those were celebrities. A lot of your celebrities don't live in Beverly Hills anymore because the practicality and the tax rate ain't worth it. That's why Gene Simmons, for one, got lucky. He sold that house he did for 22 mil. And he bought the damn thing back in the early 80s for like 2 to 3 million. Yeah, he profited from it over time, but he knew he should sell that and get out of there. Because a lot of celebrities have done that. But living in Beverly Hills, it is not worth it unless you're willing to spend the coin. I wouldn't. Even if I could afford it, I wouldn't. It's just foolish. And a lot of them ended up moving to Lake Tahoe, Henderson, because Gene Simmons owned a house in Henderson. I don't know if he put that up for sale or not, but that's where I would have moved to because the taxes and the cost of living isn't too bad in Nevada, with the exception of Las Vegas, Clark County. That's different. It's very expensive to live there, but not as bad as Beverly Hills. It can get as bad. If Lake Mead gets any worse, it's going to be a lot more expensive to live there because they're going to have to start either piping, which is the idea thing to do, piping water from the east to the west, which they say they can't do. But I'm like, well, you've been piping oil across countries or continents. You can't do water? Because without Lake Mead, you don't want to live in Las Vegas because you're not going to have any water. Or if you do have water, it's going to cost you a lot. Your average person is not going to be able to afford to live there. But at one time, Las Vegas was, I'd say it started in the early 90s and lasted till about like 2003. A lot of you people that retired, you typically, your retirees would move to Florida. Well, that all stopped. That's why there's a lot of empty houses in Florida because they start going elsewhere. Phoenix was another place your retirees started to go. But your retirees stopped going to Vegas, I think it was like back in 2003 and 4. Because shit, Las Vegas tripled in size within that time frame really quickly. And some of the people that retired that I worked with at my other job back in the 90s, they lived there, but they went broke and they had to sell whatever. If they bought their house, they had to sell it and come back east. They came back home. Some of them came back to work. It's called double dipping. And I'm like, what kind of retirement is that? Screw that. And some of them that didn't come back home, they moved down to Phoenix. But Phoenix is starting to run into that same issue. No water. You're in the middle of the desert, people. If it ain't for the Colorado River, you ain't got water. But I guess they got a good snowpack this year, and it filled the reservoirs out in California, which is a good thing. This is a Combat Vets MC. Am I right? There's two of them. You run into them every now and then. You'll run into the Hells Angels, Banditos. The one that seems to elude people on the highway would be the Outlaws. But when I'm in California, I run into the Vagos quite often. Those are what they call one percenter MCs. That's why, I'll visit out west, but I'd never live there. Florida, I have lived there briefly. But it's not cheap to live in Florida either. That's why, for the most part, your retirees, if you're able to retire, yes, they're going back to Florida. But a lot of the people of retirement age can't afford to do that anymore. So a lot of them stay put. They don't move to a warmer climate. Now, some of the privileged ones that were wise moved to the Philippines, like Paul, Old Dog. Some of that were lucky to retire early, like Naki. I wish I was in his shoes. Yeah, for me, I got 4 kids. Now, here's the deal. If I didn't have kids, I may work another 5 to 6 years at most, and then I would build up a bank, and then I'd probably consider moving to the Philippines and living. But because I got 4 kids, I can't do that. Yes, I'm away from my kids a lot, but to live in another country where I could be visiting my kids, I can't do it. I would visit the Philippines and Japan, Thailand or whatever, but I could not live there because if the economy really turns a turn for the shits, I'm gonna have to come back to work, and that's why got to keep the wheels spinning and the beavers grinning. Because this job isn't going anywhere. Because if you lose all your truckers here, our economy is gone. You better hope you live on a farm that's self-sustaining. That's why some of my family members that were old enough to remember back then, the ones that were in charge of the farms are now dead. They're too old. They're really old. But the ones that remember the Great Depression, they didn't feel it, the sting as much because they had a self-sustaining farm. Yeah, they grew crops, but they also had a lot of livestock. Next town I bump into is Lincoln, the big city of Lincoln. A lot of famous people. Well, I don't know if there's a lot, but there are 2 people that I know that are from there. That I don't know if she currently still lives there, but I do know Dick Cheney still lives there, our former vice president. Um, that's where Lady Gaga went to college. She was a Cornhusker. Yeah, she lived there in Lincoln. She's from Nebraska. And Luke Carl, which is a DJ on Sirius XM, Hair Nation, and Ozzy's Boneyard. He's a friend of mine. I met him. He owned a club there. He's from Lincoln, Nebraska, also. He owned a club, and Lady Gaga, as a college student, used to come in there with these silly songs. He told the whole story. And she was underage. And they ended up becoming a couple for quite some time. They're still on and off again. I don't know if they're on or off now. But Luke Carl was Lady Gaga's boyfriend for a long time. And I told him, shoot, man. I said, look, a lot of men in the world would give their left nut to be in your shoes. Because she was in love with Luke Carl. Still is, probably. I met Luke Carl through Casey Phillips because I used to guest host with him. He's a good, close personal friend of mine. And Luke Carl's studio is about 2 feet away, and you open his door, and that's his studio. Well, I met him the first time, but the second time I went to guest host, he wasn't there. So I had Casey print out a picture of Stewie as Darth Vader from the Star Wars parodies that they did. And it was Stewie as Darth Vader. And I put on there, Luke, you're my father. And I taped it to his door when he would come to work next. He goes, that was you? I'm like, yeah, I left it there for you. Luke, you're my father. The Reverend Luke Carl. And yes, he is an ordained reverend. Lost 100 pounds doing nothing but drinking beer. How he managed that, he did. He even wrote a book on it. All depends on the metabolism, I guess. I never got to meet Lady Gaga though. Although she heard of me, he was on the phone talking to her when I was in the studio with him. I'm like, "Oh, that's your girlfriend?" He goes, "Yeah, that's Lady Gaga." Who you talking to? Oh, this big sexy. They were yakking away on the phone. I guess they were meeting up or whatever. I mean, I was telling him, man, you're a lucky bastard. Didn't you do tell you that? And like, everybody would give their left nut to be in your shoes. To have Lady Gaga in love with you? Oh, yeah, man. I'd be eating that shit up. Are you kidding? Yeah, she's got a lot of money, but I don't care about the money. I care about the woman. I make my own bread. I don't get to eat it all, but I make my own bread. But you got to share. That's how you make friends and relatives or future relatives. Do not let me catch up to that damn cheese wagon up there. That cheese wagon passed me a while ago. The cheese wagon is a school bus, and it's in front of me, but there's a car behind it. And in the rest area here, and it looks pretty full. Now that is called a pickle park. It got that name, Pickle Park, because most of your gay and transsexual prostitutes would work there and in the rest areas. That's why they called it a pickle park. No insult to Sammy, but just saying that what the history is behind that term. But that's CB radio lingo. Your truck stops are still called choke and puke. Because I'm sure some of you were to try the food, you'd probably say the same thing. But hey, I only got one person left in here. I'm going to end this live. I just wanted y'all to see and hear the music off CB radio for the first time. Y'all have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye bye.